Ever feel like trading gives you the same rush as a night at the casino? According to Wall Street Journal, more and more people are getting hooked on the crack cocaine of the stock market, with apps making it as easy as ordering takeout. In today's episode, we are exploring a tough question. Are you a trader or are you just gambling with your money? You are listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. I am your host, Agnieszka Wood, a trading mindset coach and a seasoned day trader with over a decade of experience. If you are new to my show, don't forget to subscribe so you can come back for the next episode. In this podcast, we explore the fascinating world of psychology and the human element of trading. We take a deep dive into different perspectives to inspire you and help you navigate the emotional ups and downs of trading with self-compassion and confidence. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, this podcast is your trusted companion providing support on your trading journey. Get ready to boost your confidence and unlock the secrets to mastering your mindset for success. Welcome to episode number 49. Are you a trader or you are just gambling? And today I'm welcoming again Greg Singleton to our episode. You might remember Greg from our last podcast, and we had so much fun recording it together that we decided to do it again. Hi, Greg. Nice to have you here
Hi,
again.
hi, Agnieszka. This is fantastic. We did the last podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of my favorites that I've done in a while, and I've done quite a few. So I agree. I think it was a great conversation, and hopefully we can continue to add positive content and hopefully make people's lives a little bit lighter.
So, talking about gambling, have you ever been to a casino?
I have been to a casino, and I
How
will
did that
never
go?
forget. I will never forget the first time that I went to a casino, and it was Vegas, and it was right after high school. And when we went down there, I had a friend of mine who loved playing cards, and so when we went down, I had never really sat and played cards or blackjack or poker or really anything of that nature. So when he started playing blackjack, I just sat down next to him and just would put money up, and then the cards would come up, and I would go, hit or stay, and I would look over at him for some help and guidance, and he would go, stay. So I would stay. I had no idea what it meant to hit on the number of either over 17, under 17. I didn't understand the methodology. I didn't understand anything about the whole process. So I just sat next to him and just hoped and crossed my fingers that the money I put down, he would let me know if I should do or shouldn't do with it. And it was a helpless feeling because I had no idea if I was going to win or if I was going to lose.
So
So that was my first
it was more of a black magic than blackjack.
100% great way of putting it. Yes, that was my uncomfortable feeling with gambling.
I had a very similar experience. My first visit to a casino was also in Las Vegas. And I remember not being as ambitious and going to play blackjack because I had no understanding and still actually don't have any understanding of it whatsoever. But I went to the slot machines and I
Oh,
started putting $1, or was it 25 cents? I think it was the $1 actually coins. So after throwing away $25 in under 1 minute, I stood
oh,
there looking at myself in the reflection of the slot machine, thinking, what the heck am I doing? I could have just literally take $25 and throw it into a garbage. It would be
yep.
pretty much the same result. Like it wasn't even fun. You know what I mean? You're just throwing money in and there's nothing coming out. Very quickly, I decided this is not what's really fun. And I decided to take my money and go and buy a ticket to a Cirque du Soleil show.
Great idea.
So
Better use of money.
spend my money much better. And I had so much fun at the show. It was beautiful and I made fantastic memories. So that was my very first story of gambling and good experience because I never really went back and gambled my money.
I agree wholeheartedly. I am not a gambler. Even if we do go to Vegas anymore, I've been twice now. I set a limit, and for me, I win with a limit of $100. And if I reach that limit, if I lose it, I am perfectly fine walking away for the rest of the entire day, never gambling again, and just hanging out with people. So I'm not a huge gambler either, just because it just doesn't fit my nature.
I said, and I have never gambled again, but that's not entirely true because I haven't until I started trading. Because that's basically what it was for me when I started trading and I had no idea about what I'm doing. So I cannot say it wasn't gambling. It definitely was. There was this article recently published by Wall Street Journal. It was called More Men Are Addicted to the Crack Cocaine of the Stock Market. And basically, they were saying that Gamblers Anonymous meetings are filling up with people hooked on trading and betting. This whole thing brings really interesting point. While both trading and gambling, they involve risk, right? How much of successful trading is about controlling that impulse and managing risk versus simply chasing that high of a big win? Like, are we truly making informed decisions in trading? Or are we sometimes falling into the trap of trading just simply for excitement, similar to how gamblers chase the next big win?
And that is, I guess, for me, where it started to, uh, the fork in the road came when, in the beginning, when I was gambling, because I didn't have any idea. The same way when I sat down to play blackjack and I didn't have any idea. And I would just look at my friend and say, do I hit? Do I stay? What should I do? Should I split? I have no idea. I had no guidance or recollection of what I should or shouldn't be doing. So in the same way that I was playing blackjack, it's the same way that I started trading. And until I started to get a mentor to sit with me and say, let's talk about the decisions you're making and why you're making them. Because if you really walked into trading and you looked at it with a 50-50 outcome, you're trading with literally the gambler's aspect of, please let me win, please let me win, please let me win. But when you can start to shift that to say, okay, wait a second, I now know what I'm doing. I now have a method. So I know that if I hit a support area, that's one sign that I might be in a good spot to make a trade. Let me check two or three other things. Let me check the MACD. Let me check the RSI. Let me check, the candle structure. Let me check the patterns. Let me check, is it a bull flag? Is it a bear flag? Is it consolidating? All of those aspects will increase your probability of choosing to take your risk or not. And that, to me, was when I started to realize that the biggest difference between trading and gambling was the fact that I was strategically placing myself in a position to have my probability be higher than 50-50. If I could get that to 70-30, 80-20, and I knew that I had a stop loss in place that I wouldn't be losing X amount of dollars, that's when I moved out of gambling and into trading. And it was a giant leap for me to understand the difference between gambling of you can just lose your money and have no idea.
Right.
If you have stop losses and you understand where those stop losses are strategically placed, you diminish the amount of losses that you can have, which really helps being able to move from gambling to trading.
And I think you touched there a really important point where you said you had a mentor who was asking you those critical questions, right? Because a lot of times what traders would do is get someone to tell them what to do, just like your friend was telling you in a casino. And that's not mentoring.
Mm-mm.
That just makes you a follower and usually makes you being too late to a trade because you are behind someone, right? You are just doing something what someone else is saying and you cannot really trust those decisions. And it's very quickly and very easy to get into a mode of blaming someone else for your losses, right? So taking
100%.
yeah, and you kind of give away your power because now you're blaming someone, which means now you're not taking responsibility for your own decisions. And you end up in that weird cycle. It's like, I'm not in control. I'm not confident about my decisions, but it's all basically because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Because of having the person to be able to guide you in the right way to help you understand why you're doing what you're doing and when you're doing it, is a huge, massive shift in a psychology about how you approach what you're doing. And that's
Right.
in life and in trading.
Right. And that idea of 50-50, what you mentioned, right? I heard someone recently saying trading is just 50-50 probability. And I cannot tell you, that was my trigger because I was like, oh my God, that's not true. That's
That's
simply
not true.
not true. Trading
Not,
is not gambling. And this is a total misconception. It's just oversimplification.
yeah.
Trading is really about understanding the risk, the probability, let's say, and
Mhm.
strategy, having a strategy. So the 50-50 chance is different in trading because you actually, as a trader, you have the opportunity to increase that probability. And that's not a factor in many forms of gambling. So trading is not a coin flip. And I think that understanding is crucial. And you say, this was like this pivotal point in your career as a trader to understand that you actually, while you have no control over the market, you do
Mhm.
have the control over how you can increase the probability of your success, right?
Yes, 100%. And that is the shift that hopefully everybody is going to be able to recognize, that your strategy and your methodology that works for you because you understand who you are will help increase the probability of making you successful at trading.
Right.
In gambling, there's you're going to walk in with a whole bunch of different methodologies and ideas and concepts, but none of them are really going to work because you haven't taken the time to sit and understand truly what is happening and how to create a favorable experience that puts you in a position to become successful. Now, again, as we both know, no position is ever going to be 100%. It is impossible. And you have to deal with the uncertainty of the markets and how they move. And that is where stop losses become one of the more important aspects to learn how to set them and how to trail them.
Right. And that word, that holy word that you said, hopefully,
Yeah.
because that is definitely an aspect of trading that doesn't belong in trading, the
No.
operating on hope.
Mm-hmm.
What you see is that some traders actually approach the market with that hope mindset,
Yeah.
and that's gambling, right? You
Agreed.
have the idea of hoping
Mm-hmm.
that your next move is gonna pan out. But when you have a well thought strategy, you are operating from a completely different perspective. There is really no place for hope. And yes, of course, there will be a little bit of hope that your strategy is going to work out. Let's be real.
Right.
But it's a very different hope of
Mm-hmm.
like, I hope I will make money.
Correct. It completely shifts your perspective from hope of being I 90% hope it goes up to I have 10% of hope and I know
Right.
90% of mine is strategy.
Right.
So it's a big shift.
So the thing about hope and greed, what's really interesting is how they switch the position depending on whether you are in a trade or not. When you are not in a trade, and you're looking at the setup, you hope that when you enter, it's going to go in your direction. Let's say long. If you are long, it's going to go up.
Mhm.
And then you think if it's not, I'm going to get scared and I'm just going to get out. Right.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah,
fear that your fear will get you out. But then
correct.
when you enter the position, it completely flips on you. Now you see the trade going in your direction and you are scared that it's not going to go higher. So you jump out of the trade. And then when it goes against you, you are hoping that it's going to turn around and get yourself in trouble. And that
Mhm.
switch, that's where your emotional regulation comes in. This is where your mindset comes in. This is where all the skills that you need as a trader are coming in to help you to keep those two emotions in check and on the right
Mhm.
place, whether you are in a trade or out of the trade.
Yeah, it is. I mean, brilliantly. and eloquently put, because that's exactly how most traders in the beginning, when they start to feel that emotional swing, that's how they feel. Their fear and greed and hope and failure all start to bleed together. And it becomes such an emotional roller coaster of, oh my God, I hope it's going to win. Oh my God, it's losing. Oh, well, I've lost too much. I hope it's going to go back up. And then I'll just get out when it gets back up and I break even. Oh my God, wait. And it becomes overwhelming. That is where I had said it in the conference that we had at. I had to learn early in my career where I took a sheet of paper, and that fear that I had as a biomarker for me, that I would feel that heat that would weigh over my body, or the sweaty palms before I would make the trade. And all of those aspects that made me nervous were biomarkers for me. Then I reshaped fear in a physical instance and wrote it down on a sheet of paper. So FEAR down, and I frequently evaluated my assumed risk. And as that happened, it began to diminish the amount of the emotional waves that I would take, highs and lows. Because if I were to get into a trade, I needed to know that if I felt really nervous about it, I would look at my sheet of paper and I would go, oh, I got to frequently evaluate my assumed risk. Okay, let me go back over my strategy. And it would allow me to keep diminishing the amount of fear that I felt, because I kept relying on my trading strategy that took me a while to develop. And once I started to see how to flip those two to make fear a positive note and to follow my actual strategy, the emotional waves were much, much less highs and much, much less lows.
Yeah, and it is much easier to control that fear when you put yourself in a situation that you know that no matter what happens, that you know what you are going to do. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of counteract the uncertainty and unpredictability with different scenarios. I always ask my clients, what are you going to do when the market goes up or when the market goes down or when it's flat? What will your action be? How will you react to the external circumstances? So that before you take a trade, that you sort of talk yourself through it and you prepare yourself in
Mm-hmm.
any situation that might happen. Because if you know what is it that's going to happen, of course, you don't know what the market is going to do, but you
Mm-hmm.
know what your reaction will be. Your nervous system will also be much more appeased to know, okay, I have it under control because I know what I'm going to be doing regardless of what happens. I have the scenario, right? I have the emergency exit. I know where it is. So you will
Mm-hmm.
feel much more relaxed to handle the situation.
Uh, Wonderfully said. And that's exactly what we hope at that point, that we can create traders to become more aware about those types of feelings and mindsets and thought process. And the only thing we can possibly do is keep asking the right questions. Eventually, they will see the positive nature that just those simple questions will be able to help them become more profitable and better at what they do.
So true. And eventually asking themselves those questions, right? Because
Yeah.
it is always the answer is in the question and asking yourself the right question. No, is it going to go up or am I going to make money? What is going to happen? We
Yeah.
don't know what is going to happen, but
We do not.
regardless of what's going to happen, what is it that you are going to do?
Agreed. And it's one of the more empowering mind shifts that you can have when you start doing this process, when you feel powerless in the beginning because you're just stumbling over everything and you're trying to find a strategy and you're trying to find a mindset and you're trying to find hope any way, shape, or form that it's going to go up. All of those things just create chaos for you. So the more that you can move toward exactly what we're speaking about now, the confidence comes over time and effort at doing correctly and responding correctly, no matter if it is against you or for you. Your response is what ultimately will help you shape your strategy and your confidence.
And that's really, really good point. Responding correctly. Because a lot of times traders ask, what is the right decision, right? What is a correct decision? I like to see that as the right decision in trading is always the decision in your best interest.
Mhm.
There is
Very much.
no other right decisions. It's only, is it going to work in my benefit? Is this going to work in my benefit long term? Or is it just going to give me maybe a quick win and actually create a new bad habit or reward a bad
Mhm.
habit, which long term is not going to be the right decision, right?
Correct. Those are vastly different scenarios to even conceptually present that question to yourself of what's my response in the short term and what's my response in the long term, because that will also depend on what your trading strategy was for that. Is it off a 10-minute time frame? Is it off a day or a weekly time frame? And your response has to be equal to the strategy that you are deploying in that moment. So if you start to mix the two, you're never going to get the results that you hope.
And the beauty of it is that you're mixing not just your trading strategy, but your strategy as a trader. Like, what is it, your long-term goal? What is it that you want to achieve, right? Are you
Yeah.
here for quick profit?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you here to build consistency, and are you here to build good habits that so that you can actually trade for a living and generate consistent profit, but also enjoy it and not
Yeah. Oh,
necessarily
huge,
become
hugely
burnout and unhealthy because you have so much stress every day in front of the computer.
huge. And the word enjoyment is massive. And I'm so glad you said that because in the beginning, I never really truly enjoyed it because I was failing so much and just stumbling over every block that I could possibly find and trip over. I didn't find enjoyment. And then
Right.
finally, you get to the enjoyment when you put in the time and effort to respond correctly to a strategy that you have developed that works for your own mentality. And the enjoyment is, God, one of the final pieces that really makes you not have stressful environments when you're trading. It's such a great experience, and man, I everybody who gets there, it's amazing.
I totally hear you. It's a different type of enjoyment, right? It's not the
It
enjoyment
is.
from the result, but from the
Mhm.
process. And I know that a lot of times when I speak about focus on the process, not on the result, that at first it doesn't land, but then when you start actually experiencing that, then the understanding comes in and it's like, oh my God, this is so much better to enjoy the process, just like enjoying the journey of life instead of
Yeah,
just trying to end your life some because you're like, oh, I'm living here and there is a certain end, so let me just get there, right? No,
right.
you are enjoying every day and that makes your life, that makes the journey.
It does. It's the light bulb moment that
Yeah, yeah.
that you can eventually get to, and it changes everything.
I think that enjoyment is being taken away by, of course, by losses, but
Mhm.
also by the fact that when you don't know and when you are overwhelmed and you really don't know when that breakthrough sort of is going to happen, you start losing your motivation, but you are also feeling a
Mhm.
lot of times like you're a gambler, right? Because
Yeah,
you feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I even trading or is this, what the heck am I doing? That question pops a lot in traders' mind, right? Because when you
Mhm.
feel like that, have you ever had that?
It does. I had it very much so. I experienced it pretty consistently in the very beginning. It's the chaotic nature of aimlessly wandering around, hoping you find an answer that will fit your expectation. And when you combine all those together, it's a recipe for you to feel lethargic. It diminishes your confidence. It doesn't give you any sense of accomplishment. It's a draining experience every time you open up the computer and look at a chart and not know what's going on.
Right.
And those types of things happen, they're just so detrimental to your mindset. And it's extremely important to have a sounding board or somebody that you can listen to or at least ask questions just to get you out of that funk of negative thinking or losses.
Yeah, because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you feel like you are a gambler, you will start acting like a gambler as well and
Right?
putting the focus on making money because you will be more desperate and that negativities can spiral really fast. What's the difference between gambling and trading?
Oh,
Hope versus plan. Gamblers hope not to lose,
yes.
and traders plan to lose.
Hmm.
In general, the gambler's mindset is more reactive than
Hmm.
proactive.
Correct.
So that
Very much.
explains, like, when you are trading and you find yourself being reactive, you're probably leaning more towards gambling than trading,
Yeah, very
right?
much. Yeah.
But I think it's just such a thin line because the hope is basically rooted in that uncertainty. So everything that you can do as a trader to preparing yourself to operate in the conditions of uncertainty, including your nervous system, including regulating your emotions, and first of all, understanding what environment you're operating in, that
Yeah.
is something that will bring you closer from gambling to trading, right?
Hmm. Very much so. And the ability to distinguish between having your plan and knowing what your reaction is going to be to help become the best outcome you can possibly plan for is
Right,
such a different strategy than throwing money on a football game and hoping that, one team wins and one team doesn't.
right.
Like they're two different worlds.
Very good. Yeah, because like in trading, it's really your strategy is designed to manage your risk, right?
Hmm.
And basically making sure that your losses are not going to wipe out your profits. So
Hmm.
while it is about probability and understanding that, your outcome is not guaranteed, but it is based on patterns, historical
Hmm.
data, and basically strategy that has a positive expectancy and not
Yeah,
just hit and run. Although a
agree.
lot of traders do hit and run.
If that's how you choose to, I wish you the best of luck.
Right. I don't know about long term
Yeah, I don't know
with
how
that.
with a four-letter word. I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. So trading is much more about calculating and
Mhm.
taking the advantage of probability. It's really about math, but you don't have to be a math professor to
No,
to do that. Um, it's
no, we
just
even have there's so many different aspects. Thank God I'm not a whiz in math. I mean,
me
I
neither.
I was traded. I was mentored to help trade and understand the Fibonacci sequencing. And there is no way without the correct tools that I use for me to be, oh, wait, all right, so what is a 618 retracement from 141? 141. No way I could do that in my head. No way. You need the tools. You need to understand the tools and the methodology which you why you're deploying the tools.
Right. Yeah, I used to, I do regularly look at Fibonacci retracements, but I definitely have not conquered the whole, because it's a philosophy, right? It's
Yes.
a certain philosophy. It's not just in trading. Those numbers are not
Mhm.
coming out of nowhere and they're not related only to trading. It's very fascinating, though.
It is. It's that was one of the biggest head spinning moments for me when I was sitting with my mentor. And and still, there's even times that I continually will send him emails. We converse almost daily through email, and I'll send him a pattern on a chart and I'll send it and say, "What are your thoughts?" And he'll come back with, you know, 260 to 140 is a 120 point move, 120 point move to the next high was, 117. And I'm going, oh boy, I did not look at it like that. And then he'll come up with how to create the Elliott wave and Fibonacci sequencing to give you a target point of stuff that I was like, I
That's fascinating.
that one, okay.
Wow.
Uh, so it's incredible when you get really good at. I am not very good at it, but I can use it pretty consistently.
And
Yeah.
that's what gives you an edge, right? You become really, really good at something. You don't have to be good at everything. There's
Mhm.
also people who can, like, if you trade stocks, someone who can trade very well and someone who can pick the right stocks.
Mhm.
And if you are not good at everything, that's totally fine. You just have to find in your process, find a way to cover the other aspects that you are
Mhm.
maybe not that great at, right?
And that's exactly why finding a mentor or a coach to help you figure out who you are will make your trading strategy far more beneficial to you than it will be to us. We don't care about how you trade. That's up to you. What we care about is being able to help you understand who you are so that you develop a strategy that becomes the most beneficial when you enter and exit a trade. That is
Right.
extremely important.
That makes it so much easier to trade when your strategy and when you are aligned with your whole process. That makes it so much easier and much more, again, fun to trade.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And the fun part is so integral so that you don't move away or close your laptop or computer or whatever you're done with it. And you don't walk away with that dread or that sinking feeling. And you don't walk away with that euphoric, unbelievable high. You walk away with the enjoyment of knowing what you're doing is in line with who you are, that is giving
Right.
you a positive result.
So well said. So, how can traders avoid crossing the line from calculated risk taking to gambling like behavior? We already established have a clear trading plan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We said that. Set realistic expectations. Another thing, really understanding that it is about consistency and, it's much more sustainable to do that small wins consistently than hoping for large, quick wins
Yes.
and
Very
accepting
much.
losses.
Accepting the fact that you will lose is one of the bigger shifts in the way that you trade, because gambling, you can expect that you're going to lose. But in trading, if you prepare yourself to lose, there's a big difference in your enjoyment level, your confidence level, your preparation, your strategy. All of those things will help diminish the amount of losses that you will incur. When
Yeah.
in gambling, you'll just keep riding that wave until you go to the ATM, put more money in, and then go back to a table. And you're just chasing different aspects rather than a strategy of understanding the difference between truly setting yourself up for success and truly setting yourself up for, oh boy, I'm going to cross my fingers. Please
Right.
make me happy.
If you look at the gambling or trading, the difference is accepting losses at the
Mhm.
front, or at least acknowledging that you have to pay for a transaction.
Mhm.
Because before you play in a casino, you have to pay, right? And that's not even a
Yep.
question. In
Yep.
trading, most traders, especially at the beginning, have no well, you do have understanding, but you sort of don't really want to know that there is a cost of transaction, right? That you
There
have to
is.
pay in order to place the trade and that you might
Mhm.
lose that money. So you take a trade because you just do it on a platform. And then
Mhm.
when it doesn't work out, you remove your stop or you start to kind of back out and say, yeah, but I don't really want to pay for this. So I know I had a stop loss, but now I'm like, maybe I don't have to pay for it. Maybe I can still make money with it. You gotta accept the loss first. You have to ask yourself, like, am I really willing to lose that? I had so
Mhm.
many conversations about the level of risk. Like, is it 2%? Is it 1%? What is it?
Oh.
And it's really about what is it for you?
Mhm. I
What are you willing to lose?
I just had this conversation on Sunday with a 23-year-old that I'm working with to she wants a better understanding of markets and trading and investing and all of those kinds of concepts and overarching theme. And I asked her, I said, what type of person are you for risk? And she said, not a lot. And I said, okay, let me rephrase that question. Would you ever be willing to go skydiving? And she immediately went, yeah, I think that would be great. And I said, would you be willing to lose $1,000? Not, not like just for nothing. I said, okay, so you have to then see that you land somewhere in between because your value of risk in life is different than your value of risk in money. So how you decide to evaluate how you trade needs to find a way to the middle of that where you're not risking you know, $10,000 per trade because you don't have it, but you're also not risking $5 per trade because you're afraid of losing money. But
Right.
you're also willing to jump out of a plane. So your tolerance for risk is there. So let's find a meeting place that works for you.
Yeah, and that the key word is risking for nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of traders, when they put money at risk, they have this vision of, I'm going to make so much money with this. And that's where they start risking more and more and more because
I do.
they only look at the win and not
Mm-hmm.
actually what they risk.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
And
that the delusions of grandeur become far greater than their illusion of loss.
yeah, and in life, it might be a little bit different because if I'm about to go bungee jumping, I will
Mm-hmm.
think about the risk first,
Mm-hmm.
then
Yes.
about the pleasure of what I'm going to
Yeah.
experience.
But it shows you that where your talents or risk are. If she had said, no, I would never jump out of it. I would never do that. Oh my God, I'd be so scared. That would be more in line with her risk tolerance of trading.
Right.
Now her entire value system built around risk is very, very low in life. So that helps her understand, okay, so my trading strategy can't be very risk adverse. But if you say, I'm going to jump out of a plane, that'd be great. Your tolerance for risk is definitely increased.
Yeah. And it will bleed to trading, especially at the beginning, I think, if you don't really know.
Yes, because most people don't ever sit down to realize what the value of their money is compared to their risk ratio.
So
And
good.
no one can answer that for you. I can't, Agnieszka can't, it's impossible. Those are questions that you need to find the comfort level in your own evaluation of what risk means to you. And if that's $100, that's $100 to you. If it's 10,000, that's 10,000 to you.
So risk management, definitely, and losses. Avoid chasing losses. That will definitely help you to avoid gambling, chasing losses.
Uh, God, yes. Please, please do not do that. Please. I did that way too many times. And if there's one thing you can learn from previous mistakes of traders, please, please do not don't chase losses.
Yes, and for some reason, everyone wants to learn on their own mistakes. It seems to
Yep.
be a trend, but I think learning on someone else's mistakes really can make you bring much further on your journey, and not just mistakes, but someone else's wins, right? The things that are doing good. As an example, I just had to think of that. Uh, when Poland came out of communism, their
Mm-hmm.
example always has been US.
Mm-hmm.
And in a very short time, Poland has developed to a metropole of Europe and like all the, technical developments and everything like in the city, whether it
Yeah.
was the architecture, the service, like everything. It went so quick because they haven't started from the beginning. They just started where the West sort of stopped and they
Mm-hmm.
started from there. And it was absolutely mind blowing to see how much further and quicker you can get to incredible growth. And that applies to trading too. So learn from the best
Mm-hmm.
and learn from the worst.
Correct. In both aspects. You have to
Yes.
be able to take both of those highs and lows and deploy it every day. A great
Yes.
analogy with the way transition to Poland and how it worked.
Yeah.
That's a it's a beautifully eloquently done.
It was
And
really funny because when I moved to the Netherlands and I lived there, I thought that was the West. But then very quickly after, I started seeing Poland like speeding up. And I'm like, oh my God, now we are so outdated.
and
Uh,
that can happen because your trading strategy and people that can at win, it can change, and
yes, totally.
you just need to figure out what works for who you are.
Another thing, controlling your emotional decisions, right? Being really aware of your emotional triggers like fear,
Mhm,
greed, excitement, we were talking about, because they influence your trading and
mhm.
developing that emotional resilience so that you can actually stick to your plan. Because if you have no plan, as we said, no plan, you're gambling.
you're gambling, and your resiliency, you have nothing to fall back on because you have nothing to push through, because you're
Right.
falling back into an abyss of nothing. And you can't be resilient when you don't have anything to rely on. You don't have anything to fall back on. You don't have anything
Right.
to learn from or anything to push through to be able to make you better. So your resiliency is hugely important, to know that if you truly value trading and what you really want to get out of it, your resiliency will bring you eventually to the confidence and the enjoyment.
Love it. And then the last thing, which seems to be a huge challenge for many traders, knowing when to step away.
Ah, that is that is brilliant, because as I say to most of the individuals that I work with, when you start to learn to trade and you really conceptually build your strategy and deploy it correctly, it's not a diminishing skill. So this isn't like learning a new language and then not using it for 20 years, or riding a bike and then not using it for 20 years. Like, this is it. You will continually be able to use this for the rest of your life, for as long as the stock market is open. And no matter what the ticker symbol is, no matter what the stock is, you're still going to be able to evaluate a chart and be able to deploy a strategy that puts you in a better position to become successful. So when do you get out? I think you get out only when trading becomes so immersive to you that your outside social connections and structure begin to wither away. And because trading can be isolating,
Right.
and there's not a whole lot of people, there's not 20 people standing around you when you're trading. There can be if you're, on the floor of the exchange, sure. But I think you step away, even for a short period of time or a long period of time, depending on who you are, when trading becomes detrimental to your overall psyche and sociological connections to the
Yeah.
outside world.
That's so important to realize that when you are trading, you are sort of overloading the system, right? Not just your brain, but also physically your body. That's why a lot of traders get burnout,
Mm-hmm.
because you might not feel it, but you are under constant pressure and
Yes.
constant stress, especially when you are in the trade. So even stepping away for a moment between the trades,
Mm-hmm.
that's a really healthy practice. It's a high uncertainty, high risk environment, and you need to treat it as such and treat yourself with respect, with compassion, and giving yourself those times, those breaks that will help you reset and recharge your system.
Yeah. Agreed wholeheartedly. And that is very different from every different trader has a very different strategy between when to do it. Some people handle stress better than others. So if you're trading stressful, your trading strategies become very stressful, then maybe you need to take a day off. Some people need to take a week off.
Right.
And that's all going to be dependent on how you decide to evaluate stress. If your stress is becoming so overwhelming that even when you're going out with friends, you're already in a diminished emotional state because you're still reeling about a negative trade, or you're still stuck in the pattern of, I should have done this, I should have done that. Maybe if I did it this, that's actually becoming detrimental to your social connections and your own well-being and your mentality. So
Right.
that should be a cue for you to say, I'll take a day off, or I'll take 2 days off, and just let me reset.
Totally. And that also applies to even when you are having a great week, right? Or a great
Mm-hmm.
day, because sometimes the overconfidence is also not working in your favor. And
Agreed.
having the discipline to say, you know what, I am just gonna act again in my best interest here, because I know in my best interest is to take a break. And
Mm-hmm.
having that awareness and the discipline to step away is what makes a difference between trading and gambling.
Agreed. 100. Very well said. Agreed.
Goodness, such an interesting topic, right? Gambling or trading.
It's great. It's great because I know it's a common question, and I've had it presented to me, but I don't even know how many times, the countless times that I began doing this. Friends of mine that would just say, "Dude, you're just gambling." No, I'm not.
Totally, totally. And get like I know that a lot of people ask it because they simply don't have enough knowledge about it. So you cannot really blame anyone for that. Having also understanding yourself as a trader is like, am I gambling or am I trading? Because
Mhm.
when you are unsure yourself, this is when you get triggered when someone says something like that, and then you start defending yourself. So if someone asks you and you feel you're defending yourself, then probably there are elements in your trading are parts of gambling. And
Mhm.
it's a good moment to reflect on yourself and saying, why is this triggering me so much? Am I really thinking that I'm gambling, or what
Mhm.
is it in my trading that makes me a gambler more than a trader? And what can I do
Great,
to address those?
great insight. Agreed. Yeah.
Greg, this was wonderful. Thank you
Ah,
so much again for
these
joining
are
my podcast. I really enjoyed the discussion.
these are great. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love it.
Fantastic. And I really hope that the audience have got some insights and that you guys are able to take your own trading and kind of evaluate and see where on that scale you are and what are the things that you can implement into your process or into your life that will make you cross the line from gambling to trading if you are on the other half, and basically maintain more balanced and rational approach so that you can trade with joy, composure, and consistent results, because that's why you are in it for in the first place, right? Thank you so much, Greg, and I will hopefully see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Confidence in Trading podcast. If you are enjoying my show, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and tell me what you like about it. Thanks to you, more traders will be able to find me, and together we'll make a bigger impact. So thank you so much. If you are new to my show, don't forget to subscribe so you can come back for the next episode. And make sure to also check some of the previous shows. Thank you again for tuning in. This is Agnieszka Wood from Ahead Coach. Bye for now.